Hey guys, I'm the last Santa. He's Indiana the Show Jones. It's Halloween. Let's talk demons.
All right, guys. So in this Halloween special, we're going to be covering three, not one, not two, but three different issues of a comic called We Have Demons. We Have Demons follows the story of Lamb, the daughter of a demon hunter who formed part of a group of people called Glories, who harness the power of faith through the use of weapons enhanced by a stone called the Seraphim Stone, a space rock that falls to Earth every several thousand years and emits a benign energy called Halo. With these enhanced weapons, the Glories battle the forces of evil that are powered by a negative energy called Horn. In this narrative, Lan learns the truth behind her father's past, his work, and his death, and slowly comes to learn her place in this great battle between good and evil. Now that we know what the comic is about, Bob, what do you got for us, man?
I thought it was a good comic. I enjoyed it. There's a few things that I could pick out about it. Hold on, let me change my glasses. Those are my reading glasses. Oh, there you are. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this comic, man. I thought it was well done. What do you think?
I had mixed feelings about it. Like, oh, I mean, overall, it was an enjoyable story. But it had I don't know, man. It had a great deal of predictability for me.
Really?
Like, yeah. There were parts where I just kind of already knew where it was going, and to my disappointment, I ended up being right. Like, I knew where it was going, and it went exactly where I thought it was going to go. Um, but I mean, I guess we'll get into that. But so what did you like about it?
I mean, I liked everything. It was like when you got Blowtorch. I don't think it took Blowtorch off of its pedestal, but I thought it was up there, man. I thought it was pretty good. The three comics itself, like if that were just like one book compared to Blowtorch's one floppy, that would have knocked it off the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? But compared the first two books alone, didn't do it. But I did like the first book, and I really enjoyed the three books, the whole narrative, the backstories. Um, I really did enjoy it, man. Yeah, I liked all of it. Really.
Okay.
Tell me about that. Walk me through it.
Yeah, I think out of all three books, the first one was my favorite. Because it wasn't even so much of the backstories. It was just the fact that it had intrigue from beginning to end. It was intriguing the whole time. I was just kind of like wondering, like, oh my, like, what is it about this character? Like, what was her dad into? Like, what was, so like having that intrigue, it kept me all the way through. But once I got like halfway through the second issue, that's where I was just kind of like losing my interest because again, I knew where it was going. It had that hero arc that we see, and and like that you see in like Marvel or DC and stuff, like, it had those hero arcs. So like that's where it kind of lost me because it's just more of the same we've been seeing, decades now. Um, but I mean, as far as what I liked about it, I loved the art, the visual storytelling was great. Um, the pacing of it was also very good. Like, it didn't, even though I knew where the story was going, it wasn't rushed there. It was told at a very good pace. Um, the characters were interesting. Well, some characters were interesting. Hellor was, of course, my favorite just because he was the more out there kind of character. All the human characters, they all kind of seem to be a little, bit of a blank slate. Um, they weren't showing too many like characteristic quirks or anything like that, so I guess I couldn't really get attached to these characters. But Hellor, like, his backstory was actually really cool, which I know that we learned that in the second issue, right? How he used to be human, then he like ended up contracting this horn thing, but halfway through his transformation he ended up being frozen
Well,
somehow, like Captain America style.
was So he was around with that tribe that was the tribe that nobody knows about, or the species of human that nobody knows about. Like, I thought at first that Pelor was that species, but then I guess it was the Nephilim, I guess they were referring to.
It was something like that, yeah. I mean, that's what I gathered too, because it almost seems like, Helor was just a regular, human.
He's wonderful. It is a he.
It is a he.
So he was just like, kind of like an ancestor to human. And I guess, he goes on this journey. The thing is that the comic's actually pretty vague about it, which was probably the only disappointing thing about his backstory, is that all you get is this whole, him saying goodbye to his family, disappearing into the snow, and then from there they just jump to, oh yeah, somehow I got frozen. Somehow, they don't even allude to how. They're just like, somehow I ended up frozen. I was asleep for like a couple hundred years.
Like
and
off screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, I was gonna put in some, because this book had a lot of exposition, and for me, I thought it was done well. For someone that hates exposition, right? I thought it was done pretty well, and because there was I wanted to put some exposition, just 2 paragraphs in the front of one of our projects, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, no. If you don't like it, I said I didn't want to do it because I hate exposition, but it just felt like those 2 paragraphs would just prepare everybody for the story and we can move on. And you were like, no, Bob, if you don't like it, don't do it. Just show. And I'm gonna tell you guys, he was right. Him saying that, those 2 paragraphs spawned 3 books, like before we were starting the story. So I mean, it just made that story so much, because we just were showing it as opposed to doing with it. So, but if they'd have added that in, they'd have probably got 2 more books out of this.
Yeah.
Those extra pieces of the story, like how he got frozen. They could have squeezed two more books out of this thing.
Yeah, they could have, and honestly, I wouldn't have been upset about it. I think it would have been a cool sequence to show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
valid complaint.
Yeah, like so there was one part where I really did like the exposition of the comic, and that was when they were, hold on. Okay, yeah, so pages 16 and 17 of issue 2. I liked the exposition there, because here they are on this plane, right, and they're showing you all these different shots of the team, and everybody's just kind of doing their own thing. Right. And there, he's talking to her and telling her who everyone is and what their background is. That style of exposition, I loved it. I was like, okay, yeah, that was actually very clever. A very clever way of introducing all the characters, telling you where they're from, what they do.
That's how you're supposed to put exposition into a story, is through dialogue. But it has to be dialogue that's supposed to be in the short, or it should be in the story. You know what I mean? It's got to flow with the story. So that's how.
At least in a comic book, yeah. In a comic book, yeah, it definitely should be done that way, through the dialogue. And here, I thought they did it in a very clever way. These are like 2 very good pages where they were not only. It wasn't unnecessary, but it was actually very informative. It gave me enough background on each character. And it didn't give me too much. It just gave me enough to where I'm like, okay, I know who these people are. Let's move on. Tell me the story. And it was good. As far as like the narration goes, like I used to be a sucker for narration. I used to do it in my own stories all the time. But like over time, that's something that has changed. Now I'm not really a big fan of it. So like I guess that was another thing that kind of turned me off in the comic, is that again I kind of felt like I was reading like a Spider-Man comic book, so they always do his narration, following the story.
I thought it was done well, but I didn't realize it until the end of the book, and towards the end of book 3, and that's when I realized that the heart and the beginning of the book that I was gonna give a rant on about being beta, like you're talking about ripping buttholes out of, or guts out of buttholes and eating faces and shit, but just talking about religion gives you the heebie-jeebies, And then went to the end of the book 3 that I realized that that's Gus saying that. That's not the writer, and it made me think of The Thing.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, especially when they started doing that whole thing with the blood. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is the thing, man. Like it's.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And the in the first chapter where she's like, I'm supposed to be their godmother, you know. She's like laying back, like she's like, oh, thank God they're not demons or whatever. And then you see all this skin and splatter going around, and then it hits her, and she opens her eyes, and I thought it was pretty awesome, dude. And then when she's running towards the door, and she shoots her unborn babies at her.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that shit was so twisted, man.
Dude, this shit was fucking wild, dude. I enjoyed the whole thing, man.
Yeah, no, it was an enjoyable story. Like I read it all the way through, and I didn't. There wasn't any point where I was like, that's it, I can't read any more of this. So, like, it wasn't to that point where they were just like I said, it didn't excite me so much just because I felt it was predictable. I knew where it was going. I totally saw the whole thing coming with June turning on them, because the minute when she started leading that whole blood thing, I was like, oh, it's you. That's it. Because like I've done that trick so many times. I'm like, man, yeah, no, it's you. You're the bad guy.
Oh.
It's just the way they had her kind of take that over, and then of course the fact that she was kind of his name's Cash, right? Lamb's dad.
Cash, yeah.
How she was like kind of Cash's fling, but not a fling kind of deal. Like I was just like, man, they just had all the elements there. So like I saw it coming. I don't know. That's just me. I saw it coming. So when it happened, I wasn't like, oh my god, what? I was just kind of like, there it is. I was right, yeah. And I was disappointed that I was right.
I was surprised. They got me. He's a lot smarter than I am, guys. So that's you're gonna get me a lot easier. You gotta.
No, but I'm surprised because you're the one that's always talking about like, oh, I know where this is going, and
right. I didn't, man. I mean, well, when she found out who really bit her arm, right? Why she had to really have her arm cut off. I thought I didn't. I thought it was cool that it was Gus and not a snake. Spoiler alert. But I thought it would have been awesome if it would have been her mom. Like she had gotten infected and her mom had bitten her arm, and that would have been much more deep and powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I see that part did catch me off guard. That I didn't see coming. Like when I learned that, I was like, oh shit, so it was Gus. Now the only thing about that for me was that I'm a father. You bite my child's hand off. For me, that's it. Like that. I lose all faith in you.
Yeah.
At that point.
Cash understood that Gus couldn't help himself. He was possessed. Cash knew it, and he understood that he could not help himself. And so that's the part. That's kind of what I believe. You know what I'm saying? That all these people out here doing this crazy shit out there in the world, I don't hate them for it. I know it's wrong, it's evil and terrible, but I don't hate them for it. I don't judge them for it because I know that they're possessed. There's something inside them making them do these things that they would not normally do. People were not born to get up and murder people. Something happened to them in their lives that caused them to believe the things that they believe and do the things that they do. And Cash understood that, and that's why he didn't banish Gus, his good friend. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that I've related with Cash in some of those ways, but also Cash is a fucking prick and a liar and a cheat and a fucking piece of shit. Let's get that out of the fucking way.
I don't care if it's mean.
Okay, I'm glad we agree on something.
Ain't this sweet?
Because I think your dad was an absolute prick in all this.
What did you say?
Yeah. Let me tell you why I think, and then you tell me why you think he's a prick. He's known. All right, so in this universe, this is what I understand from what I read. In this universe, there is no God, there is no Lucifer, none of that shit, right? There's Halo and Horn. And Cash is in on this shit. He knows all that, right? He's completely complicit of everything that's going on. He knows there's no God. He knows there's no Lucifer in this universe. It's just Halo and Horn. Yet he's up there preaching every day. Oh, hallelujah, blah, 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 yada, yada. What's the point? It's not helping you because you know the shit ain't real. So you don't believe in God, right? So what is it that Cash believes in that makes his thing glow? Not his thing, but his sword. There's the, I don't think we were too clear on this, but thousands of years ago, there was this stuff called, he said in the beginning, blades, but Cash carries a hatchet that's forged by, with Halo in it. So that's the thing that glows, not his thing. But anyway, and not only that, all of them are part of these religions. If when they start introducing, they're telling you exactly who they are, their religion, all the stuff they cover. So they're all complicit on bringing the entirety of the world into this false religion. And for what? Like, what is it accomplishing? They're not getting anything from it, right? Because when they become, let's say these God folk, which are the believers, right, become a glory, they're going to know that there is no God. So all that belief is going to go out the window. That thing's not going to glow for shit. What are they going to believe in? Like Lamb was talking about, believe in hot dogs, believe in 90s records. And shit.
Beyonce, yeah.
Yeah, Beyonce, yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
And I mean, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, because that is one of the reasons why I thought he was a prick, is because like he wasn't completely, you could tell he wasn't completely honest about anything that he was doing. And the thing is that like that even goes back to the writer, because the overall, another thing that kind of threw me off about this comic is that the overall message I thought was absolute bullshit.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Because there was no message when you really think about it. Like here you have this whole comic that is going off about how there's good and there's evil, and that these guys are fighting the forces of evil because they think good needs to win.
I'm proud of you fellas. You all kept your head on a swivel, and that's what you gotta do when you find yourself in a vicious cockfight.
But at the end of the day, both need to exist, and they coexist. And so I'm just like, wait, now hold on a second. Which one the fuck is it? Does good need to win, or do they need to coexist? You can't have both.
I feel really bad about this, but I'm not going to tell you that.
No, they didn't. I don't think they were coexisting. I think that in the end, there weren't really enough blades to kill all of the. But I mean, it's just ongoing.
I know, right?
It's just ongoing. And the thing is that he even says it has to be that way. And I'm just like, okay, that's something I agree with, because that's how I look at it. But you can't have both. You can't have one winning but then have a coexistence. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, so yeah.
Like there was no final message with the comic, which really bothered me. But you could tell that the writer also has this idea that somehow religions help people be good, which to me is such baloney, because I'm just like, if you need a religion to tell you how to be good, then I'm sorry, you're not good. I don't know what to tell you, like.
Damn it, Christian.
You big turd blossom?
I like this book, man. Damn it.
No, I mean, like, dude, because the thing is, like, what you're saying, like, it's true. But my thing is that I feel the same way I feel about Christians, I feel about people who believe in the Big Bang. Because to me, both ideas are equally preposterous.
Stupid. Yeah.
They are. Like, they're both equally stupid.
Big Bang, the flat Earth, like, I don't believe the Earth is flat. I have no idea what the Earth looks like, right? I just accept the moniker flat earther, right? I don't care. Like that's
that's very comforting to me. But there were a few panels that stuck out to me as well, and I particularly liked them because of the symbolism that they use. Like one of my favorites, the one that I could think of right off the top of my head, is actually in issue 3. So do you remember the part where they are about to have this final battle, and she has just found out what's wrong with her blade, why it's not lighting up, how her dad told her that it had been doctored and whatever. So she asks Helor for his halo. You know that when he takes off his halo, he goes batshit crazy, like we saw in the other section. But but yeah, he like goes batshit crazy, starts insulting the shit out of his teammates, which I'm like, that makes things a little awkward, especially afterwards. It's like, so he takes off this halo, but right before he does, on page 16 in issue 3, there's this panel that shows where he's talking and he says, your father believed in me and I bit off your arm. I have too much horn in me, kid. And it's these two panels where it's like Hellor's face is like split into two, and one side is like bright with the glow of the halo and one side isn't. It's to further symbolize that duality that this comic is talking about, that we all have halo, we all have horn, and that it's all about just choosing which one we want to nurture. And like that to me was one of my favorite panels, because it was technically 2 panels, but I love the way they split his face in that one. I thought it was really cool.
I love all the art, man. In issue 1, where she goes into her dad's little secret office, all those little knickknacks and shit hanging on the walls, and the books, like you can see every book on the shelf. The scrolls hanging off the top of the shelf there. It's just the detail, beautiful. The shield hanging on the back wall by the door. I would like to know the story of the person that was holding that shield when that shit happened to it. Like, what was going on? I'm gonna tell the story too. Like this room is full of stories that can be explored through this universe. You know what I mean? Go back to when Cash was doing this shit. Lamb was still a little girl, maybe even before she lost her arm. So I thought the whole thing was well done, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the attention to detail is great. That's the thing. Like the art was fantastic. So like just going back to the things I loved about it. Not only the detail. I'm a sucker for cross hatching. The cross hatching in it was awesome. That's how they did a lot of the shading. So I give that credit to whoever did the ink. Because whoever did the ink work, let me see. I wanna mention their names just to give them the proper credit.
Yeah.
So I think that was Jonathan Clapion. Like whoever did the ink, their line work is on point. The visual storytelling, this is the guy who did the penciling, which I think was actually one of the creators. His name's Greg, right?
Greg, yeah.
Like the visual storytelling was perfect for the story. Even the more complex scenes, like the battle scenes, I didn't get lost. I knew exactly what was going on all the time, and I was glad for it. So it went a lot smoother. It wasn't choppy at all. There were no parts where I was left, trying to figure out what was going on. It was all flawless, and they created a lot of movement in a lot of the pages. Probably too many for me to point out any examples that
I know, it's
stood
just
out.
so much, man. I made 3 pages, and it's just too much to go through. It's just like I could go through every page and just tell you everything I loved about each page. This is kind of like the opposite for me of Dark Matter. I could go through Dark Matter. I'd read Dark Matter right next to you, and through every page, point out everything that pissed me off about it. But I like the book. I couldn't put the book down. That's what's odd about the Dark Matter. Who wrote that again?
That was Blake Crouch.
Yeah, Blake Crouch, guys. I couldn't put the book down. Christian loved it. I loved and hated it. And it's just a weird experience. I'm still talking about it. Man, it's been a year since we wrote that book?
Hey, man, you still talking about it? He did his job.
He did his job. Yeah. So when June walks in, and she's talking to her, I like how they split these two, like they're talking at the same time. She's like, I'm gonna tell you who your dad was. And she says a demon hunter, and Lamb says he was a hitman DJ or some shit. And they say it at the same time, and then that one bubble. Wait, what? At the same time, I thought that was well done too. I would have never come up with that. I'm like, man, that was pretty clever.
Yeah. The way the dialogue bubbles were done was interesting. And actually, speaking of even our own projects, I was gonna point out to you how all of Hellor's dialogue boxes, how they were different colors and shapes and stuff. when the demons spoke, same thing. The font and everything was just all fucked up, and you know, you had all these like crazy shapes. They weren't circular, but they weren't square either. They just had these like discombobulated shapes, which I thought were really cool. It went with the theme. So the overall design of the comic is another thing that I really do like a lot.
One more thing about the Big Bang, guys, before we move on. Where'd all the masks come from? Huh? Okay, we can move on now.
I'm not about belief. I'm not about faith. You know, I don't agree with either one of those things, but I appreciate the sentiment here, because this is something I can agree with. Again, this comic book goes into the idea that it's all about what you have faith in. So we all have Horn, we all have Halo, which is the equivalent of saying we all have good, we all have evil within us, which is something I do agree with. But it's all about what you believe is more powerful, you know, like, and each person believes their own thing. But for example, a conversation that my wife and I have all the time, especially, you know, like us having kids, is like, you know, the world gets crazier and crazier day after day, and it almost seems, you know, wrong to you know, at least to maybe some average mind, that bringing kids into this world is like a ludicrous thing to do, you know?
Yeah.
But then I loved this sentiment. It's like, what greater sign of faith is there in humanity, in the good of humanity, than to bring a child into this world?
Right.
Like that one line out of this entire narrative, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Excellent!
I was like, wow, that is so true. Like, what greater sign of faith in humanity than bringing a child into this world, knowing that at some given point, you know, the good in humanity will prevail. And you know, so I don't know, like, that's a sentiment that I was like, damn, you know what, that's very deep, you know, that putting it that way as to having kids, especially in today's climate, you know, where like having kids is really being looked down upon, and you know, nobody really wants to do it anymore.
Bunch of jackasses.
Like to see it that way, I think is a very beautiful thing. So I give that to the writer. He did good there.
Yeah. Well, they also talked about, you know, kids actually having faith these days is you know what I mean? Like back when he was growing up, when I was growing up, faith was still a big thing. Anyway, I forgot what the hell we were talking about. But yeah, I do love that shot you were talking about with the double shot there. And I didn't realize until the second bullet that she has to flip a bird to activate her.
Yeah.
She's like,
there's a whole thing with giving evil the finger.
my pastor says that. Tell him I wish you the best, then give him the finger. In other words, I love you, but stay the fuck away from me now.
Right, and you see, that's what I would have told Hellor if he bit my child's arm off. I would have just been like, hey, look, man, I love you, and I believe in the good in you, man, but you're going to have to get the hell out of my house.
You can't have you biting off people's arms and shit. Like, if you
were a dog, I can't have you doing that, man.
Yeah. Well, he did put him outside. He put him in a fucking dungeon in the fucking...
Right, you know, it's just like, hey, man, you know.
He was getting treated like Pete and Blowtorch.
I was gonna say like Lenny and of Mice and Men. He was about to take him out to the backyard and shoot his ass, cause I mean that was really all I had. Cause the thing is, like, this is the one time where I find myself in the position that you're always in. I love the art. The visual storytelling is awesome, but the story itself, it was too predictable for me. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as you did. It was cool and very enjoyable. I read the whole thing through, and to be honest, if there was a fourth issue, I would read it.
There's not. That was the end.
That was the end? All right.
That was the end.
But yeah, like, if there was a fourth issue, like if they expanded on this, I would totally read it, you know, because it is that enjoyable. Yeah. But It's just like story wise, it wasn't predictable. I felt like I was. It had the same arc that you find in pretty much any Marvel story or DC for me. It's just
Less Weasley, less greasy, maybe.
I don't know.
I didn't think so, man. I didn't think so, really. I mean, because
She had the Eero arc. That was her story.
they didn't have a Mary Sue moment. You know what I mean? Like when she's sitting there, she's fixing to get, axe or not, she's fixing to get eaten by these demons and their, unborn babies, until Gus comes in and saves the day. So if this was Marvel, she would have taken them babies and the fucking tubes and wrapped them around the woman's neck, having never been in a fight in her entire life, and just destroy these guys and be like, I don't know how I did that, but I did. So,
Well, no, but I mean, they went the whole route where it's just like, oh, who are you? Oh, yeah, I knew your dad. Oh, okay, cool. So now I trust you. They do that shit in Marvel and DC all the time.
Yeah. Well, like in I was watching Loki, right, season 2, and Sadie Sylvie's in this elevator, right, and she's stuck. And this is so Marvel, guys. I'm so sick of Marvel and DC, man. You guys fucking suck. And I know you're watching, you jackasses. Hit like and subscribe, you pieces of shit. But she's she's stuck in this elevator, right? And for no, like, she starts pulling the panel off and ripping wires out. And she's like, "I'm tech savvy." I'm like, what? So now you can just say stuff, and now all of a sudden they are things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tech savvy. Like, since when? It's just insanity. It's lazy.
Hey, take it easy, man.
I really did appreciate all these extra pages that they had in the books, like showing like the art process. I thought that was awesome. I got to appreciate more about how they went about creating this whole laying out their panels and how the penciling versus the ink. So you get to see some of Greg's work, you get to see some of Jonathan's work, and I really did appreciate that. As an artist, I love that they included that in the books.
Yeah, at the end of each book, like the end of the first book, they had the entire script, and the same thing in book 3 and in book 2, they had all of the versions of the title sequence that they were playing around with, the different panels that they were. I mean, it was awesome, and I love when they throw stuff like that in. That's a bonus in the comic, and it makes you respect the people doing it, because they respect you enough to show you the process, and because they know real comic readers appreciate stuff like that. You know what I mean? So they're showing that.
And it's cool because it shows you how much thought went into bringing you this. Right. The finished product. We see the finished product, but this is how much thought went into bringing us this finished product. I mean, like they went through 13 different title options, as far as logo designs and stuff. So, I mean, like that's a lot of work, especially on the artist, so I appreciate that. I'm glad that they put that in. To be honest, I mean, some of the other ones that they did, I kind of prefer. There was the one where it's kind of like a dark red lettering. I would say it's on the second page, second row. It's the second option of the second row. Basically, it's the one dead center in the page. I love that one.
Oh, yeah.
It was enjoyable. It's just, it was too predictable. That's all.
I didn't think it was predictable.
That's my only complaint. I felt it was too predictable.
Yeah. But I'm a dummy, so if you're a dummy like me, you're going to love it. Guys with large penises hate this drink. What do you think?
Man, that's how you get anybody to hate it.
Right?
Real men hate this comic. Tell us what you think in the comments.
And you're a jackass, Cash, for losing your 4-year-old daughter in the woods. I mean, I know it happens in Florida a lot. Come on, guys. Get a handle on this shit. So I'd say go out and buy it and enjoy a good read.
It's well told. The art's awesome.
Awesome art. Yeah, I love the art. Man. Yeah. Scott really loves Liam Neeson, I gotta say.
Yeah, he keeps mentioning him, right?
So that's we have Demons. I think it's worth the buy. Christian says it's worth the buy. I enjoyed it a little bit more than he did, but I think it was a great book. The universe was great. Go check it out. That's all we got for you today. I'm the Last Santa. He's Indiana Jones. We'll see you next time. In the bag.
In the bag.